Today, I'm joined by Rise Rockyatu. So she's a speaker and an educator. She's the creator of the Align Voice Company. So would you just speak for a second on just yourself for people who don't know who you are, and a little bit about your company and how you came to speak on the issues that affect our communities?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me on, Caleb. It's really great to be here today. So I have had the opportunity to speak on a lot of different platforms, digital, social, traditional media platforms over the last 10 years. I've most recently been involved with the Grapevine TV, and a lot of people would send me messages in that particular medium and, ask how I'm able to express myself so confidently, how I am able to communicate my ideas. And I did a lot of behind the scenes work with Grapevine panelists in getting them ready to speak on the panel and getting their ideas succinct so that when it was time to speak and time to debate, when the cameras went on, they were ready to go and ready to engage. And so my company really came up with the problem twofold of one, not having an opportunity to really tackle mindfulness and communication in the same way. So when I would go to a lot of like meditation places or places that were about wellness and yoga, they never really talked about communication. They never really talked about how I could use my self-care and all the things that I was learning to communicate better when I met people or when I was at work or when I was interacting with people. So I felt like that was missing. And on the other hand, I felt like at work, I constantly heard things about women who wanted to ask for more money or wanted to ask for a promotion or had a lot of professional ambitions, but never really knew how to communicate those things. So the aligned voice grew out of the need to really understand mindful communication. And that's really understanding what our core values are and using that in every place we have to speak. And so I'm excited to have given a lot of workshops during quarantine. And I really hope to continue offering it to our community, especially women, so that we can get what we deserve in the workplace.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's cool that like you said with the Grapevine TV, it's not, you're doing like not just being in front of the camera, but kind of the behind the scenes stuff too, of like figuring out the topics of what you want to talk about and actually like setting up the conversations. I think that's really cool because it shows, there's a lot of preparation that goes into things, not just being out, in front of everybody. It's all the work and all the preparation that goes in behind the scenes as well.
Absolutely. I think people just think the cameras go on and we're just ready to go. But I mean,
Yeah.
at least for me and my colleagues, we have to do a lot of research when we find out what the topic is. It's well researched. We go into our scholarly, background. I have a bachelor's in Africana studies, women's studies, and a master's in education. And so I'm pulling from all of those theoretical and academic places whenever I speak on particular issues. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that you get your idea across and that what you know is communicated to the people that you're talking to.
Mm, mm. That's what's up. That's what's up. So moving on. So just because it's a conversation, where you get your degree at? Because I'm looking to go back for like some type of like African study. Like I want to understand, you know what I mean, like history and things like that. But I feel like if I go back to college, I don't want to go back to college for just like, something regular. Like I want it to be something that grows me as a person.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to study what will help you understand yourself. I had a lot of friends. I went to Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. I had a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of friends who tried to take the route of international business and management. That was very popular when I was going to college. A lot of colleagues that took psychology. And I'm not knocking any of those academic disciplines, but I did know that some of the race consciousness and social consciousness that you need to navigate the world as a Black person or a person of color, they lacked because they didn't take those classes. And so we would meet after college when we were in our careers, and they would be like, yo, this weird thing happened to me at work. Somebody said this thing and I've been thinking about it. I'm like, it's racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And
why
I
it's
think,
on your heart.
yeah, and it's hard to even, you know, notice what's going on if it's not something you've been taught, because like I was taught in school that like African history begins at slavery. As an American Black person, that's where our history begins. And then, you know, especially when you're in, like you said, at work, if you're in predominantly white spaces, if you don't know anything different, it's hard to even like catch the vibe of what's going on until you know any better. I used to think when I was in high school that people just treated me different, and it was just regular for people to treat me different, or people to, you know, say something racist in passing or like make a joke. I just thought that was regular.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when you get the language, when you get the theoretical language, and you hear and you read these scholars talking about their experiences with racism, talking about their experiences with sexism. In my case, I did Africana studies and women's studies. You have an aha moment. You're like, oh my goodness, my experience is not made up. I wasn't just being sensitive. This is real.
Right. And I think
this is actually happening.
Yeah, and like that's one of the reasons why I started like my podcast, because I've always done like music and like art and been active, but you know, as I'm like doing more research on like who I am, you know what I mean, and my heritage and my history, you know, and just like collectively as people that are descendants of Africa, I wanted to like showcase what I'm learning and put it out there for other people, because I know that it's not just me that's having this awakening. I know that there's a lot of other people around, you know, that are trying to figure these things out too. So that kind of leads into the second question. In the diaspora of African people worldwide, we face so many common issues, but a lot of times it seems like we let smaller differences divide us. So what are some ways that we can unify and work towards the common goal of bettering our people?
This is a big question. I think everyone's trying to figure out how to do it, right? I'm active on Twitter, and every other week there's some type of diaspora war. Jamaicans, Africans, Caribbeans, Black Americans. Everyone's trying to figure out what to do with this commonality that we all have. And I think it really starts with where you are and who is around you. So, I mean, if we think about all of the global African diaspora, it's going to feel a lot bigger than us, because that's a lot of people in my mind.
Right.
And I'm lucky to have been born and raised in New York City. So I've interacted with all of those types of groups of people. I've interacted with Caribbean culture. I've interacted with different types of African culture. I've interacted with Black Americans. So there's a way that I can move throughout different communities and understand different things. But if you live in a part of America that's a little bit more remote, and you don't have as many different diverse types of groups of people, I think it's important to start where you are. If the only other type of Black people in your neighborhood are Africans, you start with those people and you try to understand what types of cultural things are significant to them. What are the occasions that you see them get dressed up, right? In my neighborhood, when it's Eid, you see people, dressed to the nines with the most beautiful colors. So you learn about their celebrations, their occasions, the things that are important to them. I know when it's Biggie's birthday, Brooklyn is the place to be, right? Like there's certain holidays and celebrations where you can understand what's important to people, and you can be in support as just being there. And I've just been in the room when these celebrations are happening, right? I went to Juve on Eastern Parkway. Even though I'm not Caribbean, I don't really know about carnival culture. I just was in the space and I understood a different part of Caribbeans because I went to those spaces. If you are not in the places where these things are happening, you're not going to be able to really understand what it means to people, you know? So I think the first thing is really putting ourselves in those uncomfortable places, going by yourself to check out a community that you're interested in learning about and seeing what that can offer you in terms of new information.
Yeah. And it's like, and the cool thing with that is it's like we might be from different cultures, but we all like kind of cousins, you know what I mean? From like around the way. So like you said, even if you're not from the Caribbean, you know, I'm just regular African American. But like my girlfriend, she's from the Caribbean, she's from Barbados, but I can still appreciate her culture you know, and know that at the end of the day, even if we broke off, we all still have common ancestry. So it's like we're all still celebrating. At the end of the day, we're all still celebrating the same thing anyway.
Everybody, everybody's at a different level of their understanding and awareness too, right? I've had a long history and experience in this particular field. When I was 17, I was in a documentary that kind of put my life on the global stage. It premiered on PBS, on CNN, on
Okay, what
NBC,
was that?
it was called Bronx Princess. And I was 17. I was just a teenager. I had no idea about the world, but that was my first interaction with media, with public speaking, with meeting people. And I had to really figure out, okay, what does it mean to be me? Because all these people are asking me questions about this project and I have no idea. So I had to figure that out at a really young age.
What, they was just like following you?
They just followed me around, yeah. And it was just, I think it was really by the grace of Allah, to be honest, because it was a time in my life where I was in transition. I was going from high school to college. I was going back to Ghana to see my dad. And it was a really, really unique time in my life. And there were two filmmakers who wanted to document that. And my parents were like, all right, cool. Where y'all been? We've been here. Where have y'all been? We ready. Put the cameras on. And I was a little bit more shy. I have parents that are, you know, public face type of parents. They're community oriented people. They like helping people. I'm the door that everybody comes to knock on when we were growing up. I'm a little bit more reserved by nature because that's how my parents are. I'm more reserved and more protective.
When's your birthday?
I'm a Scorpio, so I'm very private.
Oh, okay. Yup.
And so
my sister's a Scorpio,
difficult.
and she's the exact same. She
really
got
difficult.
a routine, and she like to stick to her routine.
Absolutely, right? You know who you want to know everything about the people who are coming in and out of your life, especially because family is so important to me. But everybody is on a different journey in coming to their own Black consciousness, right? And so I cannot expect someone who is just coming into the field to have the same knowledge as me when I've been in the field a lot longer. So it takes time, you know, and people will make it what their own experiences. You go through a lot of phases before you arrive at a fully realized Black person. And I don't think you ever get there. You're always learning more about yourself and changing and morphing.
Okay, that's what's up. So for the third question, when I was first introduced to you and to your work online, it was through the Grapevine TV, and it was the video that you guys did on African spirituality. So what role do you think African spirituality plays in our day-to-day lives, or could play in our day-to-day lives? And for somebody like me who was raised Christian, how can I, or like what steps can you make to expand the way that you view that subject versus just like, you know, like this is right, this is wrong way of viewing?
Yeah, I grew up in a very religious household, an interfaith household. So my dad is Muslim, my mom is Christian. And so while I'm Muslim, I chose Islam, right? I was born into the religion, but I certainly understand Christian traditions and some of the kind of traditions in the Black church. And I definitely understand how much people hold on to their spiritual traditions to keep them comfort, right? That was some of the only places that we have for refuge, to get away from the trauma and the pain that we were experiencing in daily life. So the spiritual is deeply, deeply personal. And so it's so hard to tell someone else what they need to do spiritually, because it's like, who are you? Like, why are you telling me what to believe? But I just feel like if you arrive to a place where you understand that your Christianity or your spiritual faith has to be rooted in Black love and in a love for your Blackness, you automatically start to seek those answers. So once one thing comes to you, another thing comes to you. So you're like, okay, I'm Black. I really want to understand what it's like to be Black spiritually. You're going to go seek those answers out in affirming places, right? You're not going to just go to spaces that are Christian but doesn't affirm your Blackness. It's not going to feel good to you anymore the way that it used to.
So for somebody like me, like I was taught, I grew up in a church where we always prayed to white Jesus. it was always white Jesus. Everything about the Christian religion that was taught to me was Europeanized Christianity. And when I became an adult, I realized that at its base, that's not what Christianity is.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me. So for somebody like me, how do I even begin to branch out, like you said? Because I feel like a lot of people in my position, like, what resources do you even go to? Like, is there like a book that we read? You know what I mean? Is there like, is it just something that you find within yourself? Is it finding out, our ancestry, like where exactly we come from in Africa?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I know I can't answer this in a Christian way, but I can say in Islam, it was really important for me to understand Black Muslims in America. And that's a particular book. It's one of my favorite books, Black Muslims in America by C. Eric Lincoln. And if there's a equivalent for you to understand the Black spiritual tradition in Christianity in America, I would recommend you research that and you get that book as one way to continue your knowledge. And then the other thing is you're already on the path, right? If you start to look over your childhood and do that reflection, and you're thinking like, wait, this white Jesus doesn't really add up to what I know in my heart and what makes sense to me in my heart, those answers will continue to come to you, right? Like as you're doing your self-reflection and as you're doing your research, these things will come to you. But it does take effort for you to look out who has written about this in the Christian tradition. There's been Black people before you, and your family has been Black way before you, right? You are not the first person in your family that has had this question, like, wait, this person is white, but I'm Black. There are other people in your family. Talk to your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents. What were they going through, or what type of things did they understand religiously? How did they make up their life religiously, spiritually, against social norms, right? What did they have to do in their time to understand themselves as a Black person, but also a Black Christian? I always start with my family, and those interviews, those conversations with your family, even if you disagree, they really hold gems because they tell you about your people.
Absolutely. So this is the last question. So Black love in 2020, like the way that media portrays Black relationships, I think there's a lot of positive portrayal of it, but I think a lot of it is also very negative. Could you speak for a second just about, do you think that the media's depiction of Black love, Black relationships, do you think that's something that's positive right now or harmful and detrimental to our community?
From what I've seen and interacted with, I've watched a lot of panels that have been put together to talk about why Black women are single, or why Black women are not married, or why Black women are having issues in the dating market, or one really popular one. There was a book that came out, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man.
Yeah. Think like.
Oh my gosh. And it was a big deal when it came out. Like people really were like, okay, this is Steve Harvey. He's likable. Principal Hightower. We love him from TV. Let's go read this book. And I think those things, I consider books, art, and all of those things media. Those things have been really damaging to our understanding of what the real issues are. And so I think there has to be a conversation about reflection and about what people bring to relationships and why we're trying to fit into types of relationships that might not work for us, right? So if you have had relationships outside of your monogamous relationship every single time you've been in one, maybe monogamy is not for you, right? Like there has to be kind of a self-reflection that we do, like blocking out all of these other media images, like you said, are negative, and create this narrative that we're unmarriable, we don't have good relationships, we don't like being around one another, there's no joy to be created when we're with one another. When I know several of my friends have positive, healthy, happy relationships, right? And so each of us have to do that critical self-reflection to understand what works best in our life, but also know that like the media is going to put out the image that is enticing and serving for them. The media is
Exactly.
going to serve its purpose, and you have to be wise enough to understand what is your purpose, right? So there's
Yep.
always going to be other agendas, but your agenda has to remain the same no matter
Yeah.
what.
And I think it's crazy because the media thrives off of negativity. And I got this saying that I've been saying lately, like even when it's positivity, the media will still disguise positivity as negativity just to sell. Like I'll see, like for instance, last night I was scrolling through Instagram and it was like, oh, Offset's baby mother says that Cardi B changed him. And then when I look at the clip, it was like, she was like, oh, I think they have a very positive relationship and I'm very happy for them. It was like, what the fuck? Like,
That's completely different. Yeah, see,
like,
because you click that and you're like, oh, she's about to say something crazy.
yep.
And you're thinking she's going to say something crazy, and then you actually watch, right? You have to do that work. I think it takes labor. You have to read through the articles. You have to watch the clips. You
Right.
can't just read these bait click headlines because they do want clicks. We want to hear about the drama, the gossip, the issues, right?
Right.
And you had to go that extra mile to figure out, okay, what's really being said here. I
Right.
love Offset and Cardi's from my neighborhood in New York, so
Yeah, I like
I'm always
Offset
gonna be
and
a
Cardi
fan.
too. We in the minority of
Absolutely.
people that approve of them too. I'm so
I
many
love them.
people who can't not
I
Offset and
love
Cardi.
Sweetie and Quavo too. I think they
Yup.
have a really great energy. I saw
Yeah.
the little photo shoot in GQ. They look so in love with each other. I'm happy that these young rappers are in relationships because a lot
Yeah.
of times they're not promoted to be in relationships. They're promoted to be promiscuous, to sleep
Yup.
around,
And it's
to,
and it's like when you put like a artist, and an entertainer on a pedestal, and all that they telling you is like, sleep with however many women you can, you know what I mean? Don't you can't love a woman and stuff like that. It's very harmful and damaging, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
So it's
mm-hmm.
I'm happy to see that, Black love, I feel like, just might be making a comeback. I'm trying
And
to.
they're young folk, they're
Yes.
young people taking the time to learn how to love. And
Yeah.
that's important because none of us have these skills just automatically. We don't come out the womb how to understanding how to do acts of service,
Right.
understanding how to be provide words of affirmation. We don't come
Hmm.
out the womb with that. It takes knowledge, and you learn that through your relationships. You learn that through the people that you're with. Okay, I have to do this differently. And so I'm excited that young people are taking the time to learn that and to invest in that type of knowledge, because if we don't teach ourselves, we're going to continue making the same mistakes that some of our parents did.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy to see it. Love to see it.
Yeah.
Love
But
to see Black love.
when you speak on like affirmations and like speaking affirmations over not just your relationship but yourself, for somebody who's not like extremely familiar with that, like me, can you just go into that for a second? Like how can we use our words, like the Bible says it's life and death in the power of the tongue. I feel like every religion and every culture has that same belief set, like the words that you speak, the energy that you put out, it affects you. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
affects every bit of you. So for somebody who's not, educated in that, what could you say, just in a way that you can start that?
Yeah, the words you speak definitely become the house you live in. That's one of my favorite quotes by Hafiz in Islam. You said has the same exact understanding of how our words affect and impact us. And affirmations are really a way for you to bring your mind into your purpose, right? We have what we go through in our daily life, bills, drama from neighbors or our
Mhm.
bosses, small annoyances, maybe the microwave breaks or the stove breaks. Affirmations are a way for you to come back when you are in that space, right? When we get annoyed by the little things, or we forget that we're here for a larger purpose, or we forget that all of the things that create issues or annoyances in our lives are not as important as what we're here to do. Affirmations help you come back to that. So there's no way for you to just say an affirmation and it fixes the situation, but
Right.
it's your reminder. When you say that affirmation, it's your reminder. So one of the ones that I love to use is own your majesty. And I will be, maybe when I wake up, I'll say it in my mind, own your majesty. Or when I'm walking into a room and I have to talk to a bunch of people and none of them look like me or know my cultural experience or background, I say, own your majesty. Or, I have to, give a presentation. It really helps me understand what I need to come back to in order to perform and be my best self. And so it takes daily work. You find the one that works for you, right? You find something that's quick. I like something short and sweet, and I repeat it as many times as I can. Usually I use a tasbih. I don't know if I can show you, but it's one of those like prayer beads that has several beads on them. And I will say my affirmations on those beads in my mind silently as a way to like continue to have those words in my heart, so that when I wake up the next day, I have them available to me, right? Or when I listen to somebody talking, I'm like, oh, that person is not going to give me the energy that I need. So let me just be silent. Sometimes you don't got to say anything at all. Absolutely not. People will speak for you. All you need to do is answer and speak positively. And so affirmations really help me fill in that space when I get into just like annoyed, by everyday life, by the cruelty of microaggressions, by the inequalities of poverty, hunger, and homelessness. When I get into feeling sad about those things and feeling like those things are bigger than me, affirmations help me, understand what I can do in my daily life to tackle them.
That's a wonderful answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Caleb.
Yup, this has been a very good interview. Thank you so much for speaking with me. I think that's all. Is there anything that you want to say or anything that you want to ask me?
I do have a course coming up. Is how to transform your voice to your vision. So we all have the idea of who we want to be in our lives and what we want to create. I do have a 7-day online course that's available for people if they're interested at the alignvoice.com/courses. So I'm excited to keep, providing the knowledge and being a resource. So if anybody is interested in what we spoke about today, I do hope they can follow and reach out to me on the Align Voice.
Cool. And I'll definitely make sure, because I'm going to chop this video up and put out little bits of it, and I'll make sure to tag you in that too and say, make sure you check her out.
Great.
Oh, cool. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.